Demystifying ADHD, the truth behind the mystery. Your presenters today are myself, Shannon Bowman, and Dan Van.
Today we'll give you an understanding of what ADHD is and the truths and mystery that surround it, evidence of what it really means to live with ADHD. We'll also provide you a structured plan to bring your unique strengths to life.
Following this session, we will send you an email to claim some free bonus gifts. These bonus gifts will include resources from the ADHD Ambition program. Do you want to learn to generate positive momentum in your life? Get ready to hear from Dan and Shannon. We appreciate that your time is important and thank you for attending. Who are we? Well, I'm Shannon Bowman, a psychotherapist, founder of Create Balance Psychotherapy and co-creator of ADHD Ambition coaching program. Our stories. Well, you might have guessed, but I have ADHD and I've had many challenges and ups and downs in my life. I've overcome these challenges in life and have achieved success by helping others. This has inspired me to build the ADHD Ambition coaching program to help other people achieve their potential through evidence-based strategies and tools and techniques that I've implemented in my own life, plus helped hundreds of people doing theirs as well. A little bit about my history and my backstory. So as I've mentioned, I'm the founder of Create Balance Psychotherapy and Counselling. That's a private psychotherapy practice in Geelong, Victoria. We employ roughly 8 people and we help people with a range of things from post-traumatic stress disorder, ADHD, anxiety and depression, and we use innovative strategies to support people. So my life hasn't always been easy. There's actually been quite a lot of upheaval and trauma throughout my life, especially in my younger years. So my father was actually diagnosed with bipolar, but this was in the 80s. So the 1980s, people weren't getting diagnosed with ADHD as much back then, and bipolar is commonly misdiagnosed, and sometimes ADHD is the real diagnosis. So I had my suspicions now later on in life, now that I know a lot more about ADHD, that my father probably had ADHD as well. A little bit more about my history. So I was born into a traumatized family, grieving the loss of my brother who died tragically at the age of 2. So that had a big impact on my family and my parents and my siblings. Then at the age of 11, had further trauma to the family when my father died suddenly on Christmas Day. So all these things were accumulative and they impacted our lives in a big way. At that stage, I wasn't actually diagnosed with ADHD.
I'm Dan Van. I'm a psychotherapist coach. I have my own coaching business and the founder of Deeper Potential. I'm also the co-creator of ADHD Ambition, the coaching program. I'll tell you a little bit about my story and my background, just a brief introduction. So I've experienced many of the common symptoms and experiences of ADHD throughout my life. Through my own challenges, I've been able to make changes in my life to succeed, overcome many of the challenges of ADHD. I've used a range of techniques that help me build my own success, and through those techniques, I've utilised a number of them to help create ADHD Ambition coaching program to help others on their journey, managing anxiety and finding greater life purpose, and also people who struggle with challenges like ADHD. And alongside Shannon, we built ADHD Ambition coaching program. But life wasn't always easy for me. From early childhood, I was really sensitive to stresses in my environment. I struggled to pay attention because I was distracted by stresses and different pressures in my home environment and school environment. I was quite anxious as a kid, and in order to cope, I would shut myself off and put all my energy and attention into things I was interested in, whether it be sports like basketball and soccer, or as a young kid I was into action movies and things like that, and I'd really bury myself into those things when I'd experience stress, just as a way to distract myself. What I'd find is that when I was at school and even into my secondary schooling years, I would disengage from the content and I would underachieve and underperform. When I actually applied myself and I was interested in learning, I could achieve quite positive things in my life. But the problem was I was continually distracted due to experiencing high levels of anxiety, and suspect I probably did have ADHD at that age. In my mid-20s, I started to turn things around, and I finally started getting a bit of help. Because I've spent periods of my life running towards distractions just to try and stop myself from feeling, when I started in my therapy in my mid-20s, something actually clicked for me.
I always wanted to be confident in my abilities, but felt at odds with society's expectations. After suddenly losing my father, I quickly fell behind in school. I felt alone with no one to turn to. And while I was in school, I wasn't asking for help. I was struggling a lot, but things just got swept under the carpet because I think teachers didn't really know how to handle me, and I'd been through a lot of trauma. So it was known to the teachers and the community what was going on, but nothing was getting addressed. I actually started to become very focused on a particular sport, skateboarding, which taught me the habits to achieve success. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that story as we get further into this webinar.
Because I've spent periods of my life running towards distractions just to try and stop myself from feeling, when I started in my therapy in my mid-20s, something actually clicked for me. I realized that I didn't have to keep running from things. I could face my difficult thoughts and feelings and learn to live with them and tolerate them better. Being present actually really helped me focus and achieve the success I'd always dreamed of. I was able to apply myself to going to uni and achieved high results when I went to uni, and I also was able to eventually start a business and work with Shannon on developing ADHD. Ambition, one of my greatest achievements yet.
The secret ingredients for success. Do you know how those who are most successful achieve their success? Well, they need to have raw talent and the right mindset. But underneath those ingredients for success is the law of 1% habits to generate growth that compounds over time. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a description about what I mean by 1% habits. So an example of this might be if you are wanting to start working out and you get a gym membership and you commit to this huge regime of going 5 days a week for an hour each day. So that is going all in. And 9 times out of 10, that's not sustainable. So the law of 1% habits is going at a completely different approach. It is taking a very, very small step. So in contrast of the all in, it would be trying to work out for 2 minutes a day for the whole week. And if you could do 2 minutes a day for the whole week, you are able to make that habit grow a little bit more. The next week it might go up to 5 minutes, and if you can do that, make it bigger. But if you go all in and do the 1 hour, 5 days a week, you are likely to not fulfill that dream or goal to get to where you want with your fitness level. So that's a little bit about the 1% habit rule, and we're going to talk more about it later. So what changed for me? One day I realized the reason I'd been so successful at skateboarding was because of my habits. Every day as a young person, I learnt a little bit more, and I gradually became very skilled at this sport. One of the keys to my success was that I picked a sport and I found it exciting and exhilarating, and at the same time it had risk. And these were all the elements that I needed as someone with ADHD to find it intriguing, to find it exciting, and to keep going. I also need these same ingredients in my professional life. So if I don't have these ingredients in my professional life, I quickly lose momentum and I quickly get out of flow and I become distracted, irritable, and I'm not thriving. So just as I was when I was a young person as a competitive skateboarder, I also do these kinds of things now, but in a completely different way. So I put myself in environments where I'm challenged, there's risk, I am excited by the work I do, and I have a lot of variability, and I'm constantly learning and evolving as I move along.
So that's kind of what I was able to apply in my own journey. But I want to talk a little bit about my turning point and what actually happened in my own life. I guess at some point, in my mid-20s when I started seeking help, I just came to a point in my life where I was sick of struggling. I really just got sick of my life being a story of false hopes and dreams and a lot of ambitions, but really losing track and momentum. And I started realizing that I needed to rewrite my story and build something that was positive and successful. To do this, I realized I needed more structure and the will to keep showing up even when stress was there and even when I was anxious and there were some struggles. What made that more inevitable was putting the systems and routines in place to allow me to change my life. These were those 1% habit changes, little things like getting up an hour earlier or even half an hour earlier every day and spending 5 minutes reflecting or meditating or planning my day ahead. And by continuing to strengthen and build upon these habits, I was able to allow less room for the distractions and negative habits that kept me stuck in my earlier years. And that's what ultimately led me towards my success.
Introducing ADHD ambition, coaching habits and mindset for success. So our 9-month coaching program fosters community. So we're working with like-minded people who are there to make change in their life and support each other. Progression, we're taking the people in our program from where they are now to where they want to be. And momentum, we all know what it's like to be in momentum. It feels exhilarating. It feels like you can accomplish anything. And when you're in a group like this, it really does start to look like that more often than not. You are in momentum and getting things done. ADHD, it's often misunderstood and it's very stigmatized. Having ADHD is obviously hard. This is partly due to misunderstandings and stigma. People with ADHD are often incorrectly and negatively labeled. So people with ADHD will commonly be diagnosed with things like anxiety or sometimes bipolar, like I mentioned before, or depression. And these incorrect labels have a big negative impact on the life because they're not getting the correct treatment and they're not getting access to resources that can really, really help them. People with ADHD can come to believe negative things about themselves. Things like, I'm lazy, I lack discipline, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed. But these challenges can be addressed using different strategies. When people receive an ADHD diagnosis, they may finally have access to support, the right support that is. I'm going to tell you a story. It's about Tom. He was part of the ADHD Ambition program. So Tom, an entrepreneur, was struggling with his business. He was always distracted and frustrated. He felt like a failure every day. Life was feeling out of control for him and his sense of self was not good. Tom and his wife had agreed that something had to change because their relationship was suffering. Tom reached out to the team at ADHD Ambition and enrolled in the coaching program. By engaging with the program, he started taking small steps to improve his focus and creating habits to achieve what he wanted in his life. As a result, he was able to attend to the things that were more important, such as his relationship and getting his business back on track. So we were so thrilled to work with Tom because we got to experience that transformation and watch him grow, and now he's thriving. Well, considering we're talking about ADHD throughout this webinar, it's good to know, what is ADHD? ADHD is a commonly misunderstood disorder which leads to a lot of stigma at times. There's a lot of false information about ADHD circulating, which can make it confusing for people wanting to access treatment. It can make it confusing for the professionals trying to diagnose people, and there's a lot of noise in the space of ADHD in general. 5% of the population has ADHD. Some of the common symptoms include fidgeting, over-talking, interrupting, difficulty with attention span, lack of discipline, impulsivity, mood swings, bodily movements, fatigue or hyperactivity, frustration, Those with ADHD often lack focus and they have trouble prioritizing. They sometimes can't actually stop what they're doing to shift to another task, and they often start projects but can't get through to the end. They only do the exciting part and then they'll stop. So they might have a lot of projects half done, and they sometimes will just procrastinate in doing the last bit. People with ADHD often face negative judgment from themselves and others.
This leads to a number of the myths that come about and that are spread. And one of the first ones, a real common one, is that people who have ADHD are just lazy. Let me just say this is completely untrue. While some of the traits of ADHD may exhibit themselves as laziness, people with ADHD, we can actually be really highly motivated, but our mind constantly changes focus. It can be a real struggle. It takes more effort for us to apply ourselves, and that can lead to burnout. And the truth is that it actually takes, those of us more effort and energy to succeed in life. But with the right strategies to focus, like Shannon and I on our journey and Tom on his, we can really succeed and achieve some great things. And we're not just lazy. The other myth, or the next myth, number 2, is that people with ADHD have no self-discipline. Again, this is completely wrong. This may be perceived due to difficulties with impulse control and weighing up decisions, but we are able to reflect on our choices and often strive to improve our decision making so we don't make further mistakes. So we are able to exercise a level of discipline even through the challenges. Because the truth is that people with ADHD, most of us are very conscious and aware of behaviours, because we can be more sensitive to others' feelings and quite empathic.
Myth number 3, people with ADHD are unreliable. Again, this is false. ADHD does not impact our reliability, and often people with ADHD can be depended on for help and support to friends and colleagues. You may have experienced rejection-sensitive dysphoria, RSD. It's common for people in the ADHD community to experience these types of things, especially if they have an attachment style that might be insecure. RSD is when we perceive other people to be rejecting us, and people with ADHD then might withdraw or pull away because the pain of that rejection is so great that they can't stay in that relationship. The truth, ADHD does not affect who you are as a person and has no impact on your emotional intelligence. You are just as reliable as anyone else and often more empathic. ADHD myth number 4. All people with ADHD have the same symptoms and challenges. ADHD is different for everyone. We all have our own unique strengths, such as noticing details others do not, hyperfocus. Some may struggle with focus, while others struggle with organizational skills. The truth is, there is a high degree of variability with ADHD. Some people are highly focused and often hyperfocused, where others experience more distractibility. Some struggle more with higher energy levels and anxiety, while others experience lower energy and flatness. ADHD myth number 5. People with ADHD are not smart enough to learn from their mistakes. We can be easily distracted, which can make it hard to pay attention. We can be prone to falling off track due to difficulty with prioritizing tasks, but we also can be highly intelligent or gifted, which allows us to learn. The truth, often through our challenges, we have to be more aware of what could go wrong and reflect to learn from past experiences. Due to hypersensitivity, we are often very observant and can be more aware of dangers or our mistakes. Myth number 6, if you're not diagnosed by age 7, it's too late. ADHD can be diagnosed at any stage of life. Receiving a diagnosis at any stage of life can be a huge life-changing event and a relief. It can help you find the right support and get that treatment that you really deserve. Treatment options can include medication, therapy, and even courses like ADHD Ambition. ADHD myth number 7. People with ADHD cannot focus. If you have ADHD, you might find it difficult to focus on one thing, but your strength lies in being able to focus on many things and the ability to shift focus quickly. This is where H for hyperactivity comes into ADHD. The truth, while distractibility can make it hard to focus, at times there is also a tendency to hyperfocus. Also, we spend more time implementing tools and strategies to learn how to enhance our focus and be more effective. ADHD Ambition can actually help with this sort.
So people with ADHD present with an amount of the myths. It's important to be aware of the underlying causes of our behaviours and how ADHD is really unique for everyone who has it. A lot of these common misconceptions can lead to unhelpful or stigmatising labels, so we need to look beyond these beliefs to become more encouraged and empowered.
ADHD Ambition is the pathway to taking control of your ADHD. It is going to give you lessons on how to improve your communications, build systems of confidence, and decrease distractions so you can achieve your goals. You are going to leave feeling more empowered and ready to take action on the most valuable goals to you. There's a system to do these things, and it's step by step, and we guide you through this whole process. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch our webinar. It's been great having you along, and if you have anyone in your life who would benefit from this information, we encourage you to send them the link to the webinar, and thanks again for your time.